Welcome to the Humanity Sales Podcast, where we talk about the marketing revolution that's happening in tech consulting and how the best businesses are elevating their brand, amplifying their message, and selling more by being more human. We're your hosts, Brandon Triola.
And I'm Nate Nettie. Let's get into it.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Humanity Sales Podcast. I'm Brandon Triola.
I'm Nate Nettie.
And we are brand and marketing gurus for B2B tech consultants. And today we are going to be talking about the hot topic of branding.
Branding.
What the heck is a brand?
What the heck is a brand?
There's a lot of stuff on brands out there. There's books on brands. If you go on LinkedIn, you could probably just close your eyes, scroll, and find a brand strategist.
Yes.
Today we're going to be talking about what it looks like for B2B tech consultants to humanize their brand, to become a human brand, and really why that's the foundation for your whole business. So to get into that, the first thing I want to do is ask you a question, see if you know the answer. Do a little trivia.
Hit me. I can't promise I will know.
Who do you think, as a business, what business owns the most real estate in the United States?
I know the answer.
Do you already know it?
Yeah.
What is it?
I watched the movie.
You watched it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Mickey D's.
Mickey D's, McDonald's. This is crazy. I actually learned this watching a TikTok video, but it's sort of shaped how I talk about this. Why do you think McDonald's owns the most real estate?
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
The answer comes in with a question, and that is, what do they sell? They don't sell real estate. And most people say, when I ask this question, well, McDonald's, they sell hamburgers. That's actually false. The thing that makes McDonald's is an anomaly to me because they don't just sell hamburgers, they sell an emotion. And when you think about brands, especially in the consulting space, this is the absolute hardest to do. You have to think about what emotion you sell. And McDonald's is so successful because they sell happiness. They sell happiness. They sell Happy Meals, right? To understand what it means to become a human-centered brand, you have to think past the offerings that you have. You have to think past the technology services, the managed services that you provide. And you have to think at the human level of what's the emotion that we sell. And it's really powerful because you could make the case that, well, McDonald's is selling a B2C product. And we have to get rid of this whole B2C, B2B thing because who buys from who? Who buys from who?
People.
People buy from people.
Yeah.
Humans buy from humans, and humans are emotional beings. That's one of the foundational elements of all of this. So whether you sell large six-figure technology services and implementations, or whether you have like a little SaaS product that sits on top of ServiceNow or something, the person that buys that from you is a human, and you have to figure out how to sell to their emotion. And that's really the foundational thing that we want to talk about today with branding. Before we get into that and how to do that and the ins and outs of that, I want to talk about some of the problems that B2B tech consultants face when it comes with brand. What do you think the biggest are?
Well, you just highlighted the first one. Mostly that they haven't identified how they're showing up in the marketplace, what emotion they're attached to or what their buyers want from them.
I think the biggest problem that we encounter when we're helping brands solve these problems, what happens is usually a consultant comes to us with they have a leak, right? I always use the leaky faucet example. If you look up at the ceiling and you see a big wet spot, first of all, as a dad, you're going to be like, oh, beep, oh no, there's water leaking. But if you peel back the drywall, it's not that you just have a water problem, you have a pipe problem. So the water that's leaking down, yeah, you're going to have to replace your drywall, maybe what's underneath the floor that it's leaking down to. But when you peel back the drywall, your problem is a pipe problem. You usually have a burst pipe. So when you see these leaks happening in your business, a lot of times businesses will come to us and say, we need a new website. They'll come to us and say, our sales team is upset. They say that our story is disconnected. By the time the leads come to us from marketing, we're telling them something different than what they're hearing and they bounce off. This is water on the ceiling. When you peel back the layer, what you usually have is a brand problem with B2B tech consultants. And what's happening is brand is just fundamentally misunderstood. So a lot of tech consultants think when I say branding, I guarantee if you're listening to this podcast,
logo,
you probably thought of my logo and my colors. And that's not what we're talking about. That is an element of your brand.
Yeah. What is your brand?
What is a brand? So there's a lot of definitions. The way that I like to describe it is taken from the great Marty Neumeyer. If you haven't read his book, that's a book I highly recommend. Maybe we'll put it in the notes, The Brand Gap. The Brand Gap is a brand strategist's Bible almost. But he defines a brand as basically a gut feeling or reaction that people have to who you are as a business. And so the art of branding, as I define it, is controlled perception. controlling the perception that your market has of you. And because brand has been misunderstood and undervalued, that has not happened. And the perception has not been controlled. So now it becomes disjointed. It becomes disconnected. Marketing says something different than what sales is saying. And everything from the baseline foundation of your business all the way to like lead gen and things that are in market is disconnected.
Yeah. So basically what you're talking about is a brand. Let's just not use that word for a second. You need a core driving idea that informs every place your business interacts with customers and your employees interact with each other. Anytime you show up anywhere, you need a core foundational position, concept, thought, perspective that consistently drives that interaction across your whole business.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
That is a brand.
Yeah.
That is a brand, and that is a brand strategy.
Yeah.
So the problem that we see, one of the biggest problems that we see is leaders at tech businesses are not invested in building a cohesive brand strategy. To say it another way, they are not invested in forming a strong point of view that permeates everything that the business does. So, like you said, what happens is things are disjointed. Sales has their own perspective. Marketing has their own perspective. Product has its own perspective. Yeah. Ops has its own perspective. Leadership has its own perspective.
Even HR's over there
HR has
saying
its
their own thing. Yeah.
Everybody has their own perspective, which the most charitable view is it is probably closely related to the core idea of the business.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it is an adaptation.
Yeah.
It is not consistent or clear.
Yeah.
So from a clear perspective, you are then able to express contextually that perspective into each area of the business in a way that provides continuity for every interaction that the business has with the marketplace.
Yeah. I would say, I think that's great. Thinking about how to humanize that, right? Like the important human aspect, humanizing your brand really is the foundational piece. And I think that's the point I want to drive home with this episode specifically is the foundation. Brand has to be the foundation. Sales cannot be the foundation. Sales can be a goal, but brand has to be the foundation. And I want to unpack that a little bit, like why brand as a foundation is so important.
So I think it's a classic example of foundationally, like the brand is the foundation of the business and how the business is built and how the business shows up. In a lot of scenarios, a brand is an amalgamation. It is an afterthought of all of the disjointed efforts that are being put into the market.
Yeah.
So you have sort of this collective experience that isn't always consistent, and the thought that customers have in their minds varies greatly depending on who's interacting with the company at any given time. But the brand strategy, the brand positioning, the core thought is the foundation that everything builds on. So when you build a house, my dad is a builder, so I grew up trying to, understanding the concept of structures and how it works. It's always about the foundation. It's the dirt that you're building on, the lot that you're building on, what's in the soil. What is the foundation? What, like digging the basement, masons building the walls of the basement. Everything has to be structurally sound underneath to support.
Do people cut costs when they build basements and foundations?
Everybody cut costs in every industry. I think that one story that I know is that there was a builder who wanted to make some money building on some farmland that the ground wasn't totally settled. It was like a muck farm, and they built a house, and then 10 years after the home was built, one of the corners of the house started to sink. And I don't mean like fell into a sinkhole.
Yeah.
I'm talking like a quarter of an inch, half an inch, right? But when you have all the weight of the house on it, everything starts to sag and stretch, and you see cracks in the drywall. Then all of a sudden you start to see these like symptoms of a much larger crack in the foundation, or shift in a foundation. And
that's crazy.
Bringing it home, I would say that your brand position, your brand strategy, it is the foundation of everything that you do.
Love it. So one of the things that I want to talk about for the tech leaders that are listening to this podcast is the net effect of realizing like those leaks in the ceiling, right? What are some of those leaks in the ceiling? And basically, what is the net effect of not prioritizing a human-centric brand at the foundation of your whole business? What stuff tends to show up.
Yeah. What are the symptoms?
Yes, exactly.
How can you identify that this is happening at a company?
Yeah. And if they've been listening, they probably already going, some of that stuff's happening to us right now. Maybe we need to reevaluate our brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that the first symptom that you can identify quickly is jargon. Jargon. You know, what's interesting about jargon is that everyone can identify it and would also rail against it. Yeah. Oh, jargon heavy. But then also when we go to sell, we're using jargon. We're leading with jargon.
Yeah.
Our industry solutions delegate effective workflows for the industry buzzword.
Optimization.
You're
outcomes to the levers to be pulled.
Jargon. Yeah. Jargon. You show up like a robot.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about it is it's like only in B2B you really see like this everyone puts on this suit, the robot suit.
Yeah.
And they start writing emails in a way that they would never talk. They start writing about product in a way that they would never talk. You never text your friends to hang out and watch a football game.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm reaching out to see if we can solidify a time for us to view a sporting match together and consume beverages in a way that makes me feel happy after I've had several. You know, like, hey, do you want to come drink some beers and watch the game with me?
Yeah.
And it's like, it just seems so silly when you put it like that. But if you just take a step back and go on LinkedIn, scroll for less than a minute on LinkedIn, and you will see this.
Yeah.
It is pervasive. And not only is it like a big eye roll, it's ineffective.
Yeah.
And it is a core symptom of not having a clear brand strategy, or if the brand strategy is clear, not having a human brand strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing.
I think that another symptom of not having a core brand strategy is that nothing compelling or interesting is coming from the company. There's not a unique perspective. It's just, here are the features of what we do. Would you like to buy what we do?
Yeah.
There's nothing, even if product is innovating, which we're seeing a lot of times, the communication that's coming through is, please view our product. Please book a demo. This is innovative. This is fun. And if you have to stand there and shout, we're innovating, you're losing people already. You have to show, not tell. So a symptom of not having a clear brand strategy is that the communication that's happening in the market around your innovation is just features and benefits.
Yeah.
It's nothing compelling.
Which is what everybody else is doing. So you just look like everyone else, you sound like everyone else, and you blend in.
And the experts that are at your company, while they are bringing an informed perspective to the table from a thought leadership perspective, they're not bringing a unique perspective to the table. They haven't connected their thought leadership to the core differentiation strategy of the company.
Yeah.
So they're just like an asset manager in the ServiceNow world trying to differentiate their thought leadership is essentially saying the same things as other asset managers trying to put thought leadership out there, because it's not connected to a core brand strategy that's differentiated, that's markedly different.
So one way this shows up is your team doesn't know how to talk about what makes you unique and the business value behind it. And you're constantly having board meetings, like what are our differentiators, but why are we different? You're constantly trying to like piece it together, and you can't, because at the foundation, you haven't woven that into the human brand strategy that you should have, that's informing that across marketing, across sales, across all the things that you're doing.
So how do you humanize a brand? So if I'm sitting here listening and I'm a CMO of a $100 million tech business, and I say, man, these guys are right. They're onto something. I want to start humanizing. Give me the mechanics, like the big perspective, like, okay, buckle in, here's how you do it. And then give me some like really light kind of like, I can just start looking at this today. First, I just want to hear you. I feel like you're an absolute brand expert, like especially in this space. I want to hear you coach me on how to humanize my brand right now today. What do I need to do internally? Who do I have to sell? Do I have to go get money? Where do I start? Take me through it.
Wow. Yeah. I think one of the biggest places to start, like how to humanize a brand, is probably just thinking at the foundation and knowing that your brand is not for you. Your brand is for your customer. It's for your human. So you've identified the humans that are going to buy what you sell. Really, you've identified the humans who have problems and pains that you've built products to solve, products to help them solve those pains. And you're building a brand for them. You're not building a brand for your board. You're not building a brand for shareholders. You're not building a brand for the sales team or the marketing team. You're building a brand that is like a rallying cry for the people that you want to help. And that is the number one first and foremost thing. Your brand is not for you. Your brand is for the people that you exist to help. And then I would say, get emotional. Like I talked about at the beginning, McDonald sells happiness. What do you sell? Is it confidence?
We sell technology implementations that streamline
You don't
workflows.
sell. That's the thing. Like you don't sell offerings. What is the emotion that you sell? What is the after effect emotionally of the technology offering, of the managed services to the persona that you've identified? This is the person that we're going after.
So you're not even talking about features, and you're not even talking about the benefits of those features. You're talking about something different entirely. A net effect on the customer.
Yeah, and then the third thing I would do is I would build a human-centric brand playbook that humanizes your brand, and you really can break this down into 3 big chunks. It should have an internal section for your internal brand. It should have an external section for your external brand, and then it should have a playbook, like a strategy, like how to get this into market, or even a change management section for how to get this internally assimilated throughout your whole business. And that might sound like a lot, but it's for a tech company, for a large tech company, it's really not that hard to do. If you start with the emotional part, like I talked about, if you realize and remember that your brand's not for you, it's for the person that you're trying to help, then you can build those elements out. You can build that playbook. And the technology companies that do this are really successful. They're able to start to see that cohesion take place, and they're able to start to tell a story from the foundation of their business that trickles inside their business to their people and their HR and their hiring efforts. And then it even goes outside the business into the market. So the market is able to experience that emotional impact of their brand.
Can you give me an example of just like a real cut and dry example of if I was messaging for features, what I might say, and if I was actually going to flip it and go for the emotional impact, what would I say to my customer?
I think it's important first to talk about the data behind why this is important, because a lot of times, like I talked about on a previous episode about left brain people want to talk about left brain things. There was a really long study done, and it's all compiled in this book called The Human Brand, basically. I would highly recommend everyone listening to this getting that. But basically, they studied all kinds of brands and focus groups, and the data basically came back and revealed that people analyze brands on 2 levels. Are you warm and approachable? And are you competent, smart? Can I trust you to solve my problem? But the important thing about that data is that the order by which people judge brands is really important. And what left brain technical people think is I have to lead with showing how competent I am, which is important. But the data behind this book is saying the brands that actually lead with focusing and prioritizing being warm and approachable create more trust, shorter sales cycles, have better market share. It's the results are astronomically different than the brands that just focus on appearing competent, smart, and able to do the work.
Yeah, we see a lot of that in this tech consulting world, hero syndrome.
We call it hero syndrome.
Yeah, a lot of people, most brands lead with their size and their success. We're the largest X. We've done this many implementations. We have worked with these giant brands. It's a trap.
Yeah.
It's a credibility trap. You think that you're building credibility by standing up on the table and beating your chest saying, we are the best at this, work with us. All the while, the companies that are getting the deals right underneath you are going, hey, yeah, we are the best, but listen, we understand your problem.
Yeah.
And we'll reiterate it back to you. We know your problem inside and out, and that's how we show up in the market as a company who understands you and can help you. So,
how does this make money, Nate? There's business leaders listening to this right now. I think it's really important, and this I think is what separates strategic creativity from just creativity that's just objective.
It's important because, here are the creative guys saying be more creative. Here are the guys saying be more human. And it's real easy for people to set up here and say, hey, do our thing. Yeah. Have our methodology.
Yeah.
It'll be better for you. Trust us.
Yeah.
Trust us. It'll be better for you. How does it make you more money? There's this concept called the Girl Scout effect that I would like to highlight and illustrate this point with.
My family's all gluten-free, so for the record, this is a really touchy subject because I can't eat Girl Scout cookies.
You know what? In my house, my wife likes the Thin Mints in the freezer.
I wouldn't know. You got to put them in the freezer.
You never had a Thin Mint?
I've had a Thin Mint, but it's been a long time.
I think that your stomach could handle a Thin
probably
Mint.
could handle one.
I'm going to ship you a box. Okay, so here's the principle to illustrate the humanness, how this makes you more money. Did you know you can buy Girl Scout cookies at any time?
Actually, you were talking to me about this the other day, and I didn't know. And I actually went, oh my gosh, if I could eat them, I would totally order some. But now I know this.
You can order them at any time.
That's crazy.
You can just go buy them.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
But we all know that there's Girl Scout cookie season, and somebody's daughter from your office or somebody at the grocery store is posted up while you're walking in. How would you like to buy some Girl Scout cookies? What do? We buy them. We buy a ton of them. Before digital, I remember that there used to be this like sheet of paper you'd fill out as like Samoas and Thin Mints or whatever. I like the ones with the Samoa.
It's digital now?
Yeah, like
someone helped them digitalize. This is crazy. Look, it works.
The point is, even though we can buy them at any time, we buy when we have a personal connection to somebody that it benefits.
Yeah.
When we know the daughter of the person that we work with, we'll support. When we're walking into our local grocery store, it's a local Girl Scout troop, we'll support. So even though we can have them at any time, we're purchasing from somebody that we have trust with and that we feel invested in emotionally at a certain level. It's Girl Scout cookies at the end of the day, but at a certain level. The same principle applies in technology. You make more money by building trust with people faster and helping them see that you can take away their pain. That's it. And the way that you show them that is by being human.
Yep.
You actually prevent them
Yeah.
from being able to trust you by leading with how big you are.
Yeah.
You're actually creating buyer resistance by doing that. Shouting about your features repels them for the same reason.
Because guess what? Your competitors have features too and benefits.
Yeah.
And they're probably better than yours.
All I want is someone who understands me.
And can solve my problem.
Yeah. Remember this. You're buying from a person. You're buying from someone who, if you're an international coffee brand and you're an IT director, you're an IT leader, you have $50 million to spend on a platform. You don't think that weighs heavy on the mind of the person making that decision?
I wouldn't sleep.
What if you get it wrong?
Yeah.
What if you hire the wrong company?
Yeah.
What happens to your career? Will you ever work in IT again? Will anyone ever hire you? Certainly not a larger company.
Yeah.
Hey, let's hire Dan.
Yeah.
He screwed up the $50 million implementation. Let's give him 100. That's not how it works. You go backwards. You end up working at some little family shop. You're afraid. So you're laying there at night. You're going, man, I want to be a good provider for my family. I want the others on my executive team to see me as competent.
Yeah.
I want the others on the executive team to affirm my role and my position.
Everybody
on
cares
this
about
team.
themselves. This is a hard truth. But your people that you're selling to don't care about you or your company. They care about them and their problem and the goals they have.
Exactly. We're all self-preservationists.
It's crazy, but it's true.
And when I have that much responsibility and I'm making a $50 million decision, I need certainty and I need confidence. And you get certainty and confidence from people who identify your need and say, I got you. I've been there. I can help you solve it. And now there's probably companies sitting out there going, we do that. Yeah. Probably once they're at the end of a long sales cycle and you finally have a chance to talk to them and sit down with them. What we're saying is, tying it all the way back to brand, you have to build a core brand strategy. In other words, a core perspective on the market that enables you to show up in a way wherever the customer interacts with you that positions you as, I get you, I understand your pain, and I can take it away faster and better than anybody else here. That's it. That's a brand strategy. And that's what you have to work on doing.
Yeah. I'll say too, the one other tangible way that we see this making companies money is there's lots of data around this now, but one study figured out that the more consistent a brand is, they experience upwards of like a 33% more revenue than the brands that are not consistent. So when you have a human-centered brand strategy at the core of your business, you now have something that's going to give marketing everything they need to make thousands of campaigns. Now you have something that you can align sales around, that they're going to be telling the same story. What you do is you create a scalable, cohesive, human-centered framework for your whole business that ensures everybody from the inside of your business all the way outside is going to experience the same story and the same emotional impact. And that literally contributes to revenue growth, because consistency brings money. Consistency brings money. It's just really simple.
Yeah, we've heard a couple stories actually from businesses that we've worked with that they have said to us, this is their example. When they updated some of their marketing before updating their brand and their brand positioning, they had people saying, you rolled out a Mercedes in the ad. And when we got in to go buy it, it was a Kia.
This is an actual conversation we have with.
No shade on Kia. Kia's a great car.
Yeah.
But it's very different than a Mercedes in a lot of ways. Two different things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yes, you can make changes for sure, but it's about the continuity of the experience of your brand. Does the customer feel a strong point of view on you understanding who they are and what they need from the moment that they hear about your brand to the moment that they make a buy decision?
Yeah.
So I'm going to push us into 3 takeaways for anyone listening. This is obviously a giant endeavor. Companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on brand positioning.
You may have just had a rebrand and you realize it caused more problems than not now, right? Like, I don't know where you're at listening to this.
Yeah. Maybe this is new for you and you're going, man, I wonder if I have cracks in the wall. Or I wonder if, man, do I have a solid positioning? How can I begin to evaluate whether or not I have a great brand strategy?
Here's your 3 takeaways. Yeah, I would say the first one, audit your brand assets. Audit the things that are leaving your business.
What are you looking for?
I would look at sales enablement, for example. You'll see it show up there. Is it human? Is it relatable? Is it understandable?
Full of jargon.
Is it full of jargon? And then the second thing I would do is I would empathize with your buyers. I would go and build a persona framework that doesn't just talk about the age range and the company size of who you want to reach. Put a picture of the chief revenue officer there. What do they look like? Print them out, put them on the wall. What are they afraid of? Write out their pains, write out the internal things that were really keeping them up at night, and have that as part of your brand strategy. A human-centered persona framework should be part of that brand strategy. So I would say the second thing, empathize with your buyers. And then the third thing, it's actionable, but it's also really internal, and stop undervaluing the power of branding. Control the perception of how people interact with your company and with your business at every touch point. This is more important than lead gen. I think this is more important than pipeline. I think this will determine how effective lead gen and pipeline actually are. If you think about this at the foundation, this is more important because it will impact and affect those things. It will be what determines how fast or slow your sales cycles actually are. So let me repeat those really quick. Audit your brand assets. See how human they are. Empathize with your buyers. Have persona frameworks that are human. And stop undervaluing the power of brand. Rethink how you think about brand. Educate yourself on brand. There's lots of great books out there. A great branding book out there is called The Brand Gap by Marty Newmeyer. I've talked about that. And then The Human Brand. It's an amazing book. Check it out on Amazon. We'll put the notes in the podcast info for people.
Just a closing thought here. I would say that if I'm listening to this and I'm a CMO at a large organization, I'm thinking about all of the roadblocks that I will have on my ELT, all the educating that I will have to do. And so I want to say, hey, we see you. It is absolutely a challenge to do that. But I will tell you, there's help in figuring out how to lead up, lead horizontally, and educate around the power of brand. There's help going to make the case for getting funding for these efforts. There's data. There's a cohesive story that you can tell to start to pave the way for this, because it really does have to start at the top. You have to get a green light at an organizational leadership level that we are going to invest in a positioning strategy, and we're going to see it through to execution and potentially delay a little bit of return on marketing or brand spend in order to see that through all the way. going to need to be some patience.
It's going to need to be some patience. That's great.
But if you're out there, we see this as a tough road to hoe, but you're probably in the position that you're in because you're good at hoeing the row. And
nice.
You probably made it to where you are because you have tenacity and you're tough and you're thoughtful and very smart. So I think you can figure out how to push this through.
Yeah. I'll also say too, we're starting to put out more content. We really want to equip people at the marketing level, especially, to be able to start doing this. The great news is you don't have to swallow the whole elephant and like try to do this whole total revamp. There are things that you can start doing at a foundational level to start to humanize your brand and start to build a brand strategy and piece one together. So thanks for listening. Hope this was helpful. Hit us with a subscribe, hit us with a like, a share. As you guys know, we're trying to help 1,000 digital transformation leaders elevate their brand like we talked about and amplify their message. The more people that subscribe and hear this podcast, the more we can help do that.
Great.